Hi there, and welcome to everybody watching the live post-match reaction from Ibrox in the third round of qualifying for the UEFA Champions League. In the first leg, where Rangers have defeated Servette 2-1. Right, Craig, let's just kick it off in terms of what was your overall thoughts on that performance tonight?
I thought we started really well. I thought we started in a manner that I expected us to start on Saturday, but we obviously didn't, and we never really reached out of second gear on Saturday, so it was pleasing to see how quickly we started the game tonight. Obviously got the first goal 4 minutes in, second goal about 10 minutes after that, I think, and we were 2-0 up, and we were absolutely battering them, to be fair. At that stage we thought, you get a third goal here and it's you're pretty much through almost. It was that level of dominance that we were showing, but after about 25 minutes, I'd say, we started to take the foot off the gas. We started to sit back a little bit more. We let them more into the game, and it was disappointing to concede that penalty just before half time. Cyriel Dessers has just spoken in the post-match press conference that he felt it was really harsh, and he was surprised it was given because it deflected off Borna Barisic just in front of him. They were told at a referees meeting earlier this week that if that was the case and it deflected in a really close distance to you and onto your arm, it would not be given as a penalty. So he was really disappointed and surprised by that. Second half was just so wasteful. It was the final pass isn't there. I think if it was, we would have won 4 or 5 tonight. So that was really disappointing. But Michael Beale spoke about us getting into the right positions a lot more tonight. He spoke about us basically doing everything apart from getting that final finish off. And it's hard to disagree with that one, as frustrating as it is that we did only win 2-1. And in this competition, we know how important it is to win your home games. We've done that. I don't know why I feel as disappointed as I do. I think it was more, especially after that first 25-30 minutes, I was really looking for us to close the tie out tonight. And now we're heading over to Servette, where Craig King, our guest, our Swiss football expert guest earlier in the week, said that they've sold out their stadium for the first time in 15 years or so, I think it was. So they'll have a big backing next week, and we'll need to go out there. They'll also have players back, I believe, that weren't there tonight. So it'll be a tough test, and we need to be on our toes. But Michael Beale and Cyriel Dessers both said in the post-match press conferences that was a good thing, that we would be on our toes and that we weren't acting as though the tie is done. So I think there's some positives to take out of that, but I'd much rather the tie was done now than having to go to Switzerland next week with all to do.
Yeah, agreed. I think that's very much the way that I also feel about it. Is fantastic it is to get a win in any European competition at any stage, at any level. It was really disappointed that after 2-0, 30 minutes in, we did not go and absolutely kill them and sink the tie.
But we had the chances though. We did have the chances. Sam Lammer's one, obviously, directly before the Servette penalty, is the obvious one. From where we were sitting, he was right in the centre of the goal. It looked like he had the whole goal to hit, and he somehow hit it wide. I don't know how it looked on TV, or I've heard it looked worse on TV than it did in person, which isn't what you want to hear.
Yeah,
but 3-0 up at that point, it absolutely kills the tie. Then you go into half time 2-1 a matter of minutes later, and it switches everything, and it switches the mindset. Servette go down to 10 men. You're thinking, right, one, we should go and we're going to dominate the ball. We need to go and break them down, which is a concern a lot of Rangers fans have had recently, especially at the weekend, in terms of how difficult we found it to break Kilmarnock down. And we saw that again tonight, although I think we did create the chances tonight. It was just the finishing. The Servette keeper pulled off 2 fantastic saves to deny, I think it was Dessers both times. I might be wrong, he definitely was one of them. But I think it was disappointing to not see us score more, and I think that's going to be the running theme of tonight's podcast, to be fair.
Yeah, I again, I very much agree with you on that one. But look, let's take it back to the start in terms of the lineup. Butler in the goal, Tav, Golston, Suter, Barisic, Jack Raskin, Cantwell, Lammers, Dessers and Danilo. I think before we go and get into the goals, I think the biggest change was obviously Todd Cantwell starting tonight. It was evident from the off that he made that team tick when we were playing well, and for me, I think we did play well in that first 20-30 minutes. and every single thing went through him, didn't it, Craig?
Yeah, John Walker spoke in the podcast earlier in the week about how important Todd Cantwell is to making Michael Beale's system work, and we saw that tonight from minute one. Todd Cantwell was getting on the ball, he was demanding the ball, he was dropping back to halfway line and driving forward. He's playing the ball quickly, which was something that we were all moaning about after Saturday's game against Kilmarnock, and it was completely different tonight with Todd Cantwell in the midfield. I actually thought the midfield of Jack Raskin and Cantwell worked really well. I thought Ryan Jack showed up well tonight, albeit the final passes in the final third weren't great, but I thought everyone in that midfield played well, and it was good to see Cifuentes come in there later on. But Todd Cantwell's contribution tonight can't be underestimated, and Michael Beale said, I think prior to tonight's game in his pre-match press conference, he reiterated it tonight that he basically thought the game would open up against Kilmarnock after 60 minutes, and that would give Todd Cantwell the ammunition to make a difference. Obviously it didn't happen. Todd Cantwell showed tonight just how important he is to this team, and he'll be absolutely vital going forward.
Agreed. I think he's virtually cemented his starting berth in most teams that we play. I can see him not playing in some of the cup games, but yeah, it was very a frantic start for Rangers. I thought they started very, very well, pushing high. You can see the pace, the tempo. You can clearly see that is the way that Bill wants this Rangers team to play. And 4 minutes into the match, the ball was won on the left-hand side. I only saw the challenge back for the first time. It was a bit of a surreal experience listening to Dessers talk to us while watching Todd Cantwell getting half in the TV behind him. But having seen that replay back, it was a definite penalty. Really good play from Rangers, something that you want to see them. You want to see them in the box, putting the opposition under pressure, won the ball back, and Tav, to quote another man that was in the stands tonight, Tav does what Tav does and scored his first competitive goal for Rangers this year.
Yeah, I mean, it was the perfect start. We couldn't have asked for a better start, and as we mentioned already, we looked like we were at it from the off. As soon as that first whistle went, we were going. We were pressing high. Servette were pressing high from the start as well, which we noticed, which helped to open the game up a wee bit at that point. But the desire from Todd Cantwell to get to that ball first when he's fouled shouldn't be underestimated, and once again, it's made a huge difference to us early in the game, and I think it really settled everyone down, and it just went from there, and we kept going through the gears, and that's what ultimately led to the second goal just quickly after, wasn't it?
Yeah, exactly. Rangers were really going through the gears at that point. It was really good to see, and even before we scored the second goal, I think I turned around to you and said I can see this being a bit of a bit.
Kyle went for 6-0 5 minutes in. When we were 1-0 up, so we can blame Kyle for that one. It's
not like me to get carried away, Craig, but there we go. 40 minutes in here, and a wee bit of behind the scenes for the viewers out there. Your phone has been a bit slow, so I was trying to send out a tweet. So this is the neatest writing I've ever seen ever in my notes, because Craig wrote this one from me, and a really good word here. It was a marauding run from John Suter out wide. Borna Barisic, who we'll definitely touch on tonight, he put in a really, really good cross right in that no man's land, as it's referred to.
Corridor of uncertainty.
The corridor of uncertainty. That's it there. The keeper didn't come from it. The Danilo, I think, went for it, committed the Servette defender, and there was Dessers scoring a very Boyd-esque goal in at the back post. I'm not sure which part of his body it hit off of, but I don't really care. It was 2-0 Rangers at that point after 14 minutes.
Yeah, I enjoyed writing that word marauding down, because I wondered if you'd actually say it. It was a marauding run from John Suter. He had a couple of runs like that tonight, and it was really impressive. He wasn't scared to take on a man. He wasn't scared to take control and go past and keep the attack going through the middle. Sometimes we do tend to try and get the ball wide at every opportunity. John Suter made a bit of a difference there. He played the ball in. There was some nice football. Ball out to Borna Barisic, and as you say, it was a good cross from Borna Barisic. A lot of people said Borna Barisic had a really good game. Michael Beale actually said, I've forgotten the exact words that he used, but he said that Borna did well tonight. I wasn't necessarily of that opinion. Thought he did okay, but nothing stand out. But I do come from a predisposition of I think Borna Barisic should be sold this summer, so that's maybe affecting that opinion. But it was a great ball in, as you said. Danilo made that front post run, pulled the defender in, and Dessers was there at the back post to, I think he kneed it in, didn't he?
Yeah.
I've seen a few comments saying that thank goodness the ball hit Dessers rather than Dessers hitting the ball, because that was the only way it was going to be a goal. I think that's a bit harsh, but it was 2-0 Rangers after 14 minutes, I think it was, and absolutely flying. And the only outcome of today's game looked like a lot of goals for Rangers and a comfortable win.
Yeah, I think, yeah, agreed there. The next part of my notes here, I've got a few comments about 17 minutes, 25 minutes. There was a couple of shots that we had from outside the box. That was certainly something that I've noticed already, is that we are taking a lot more shots outside the box. Whether or not they're on target is a completely different story, but if you score, 10% of those, it's definitely an improvement in the last few seasons. But the next thing I want to talk about was the fluidity of that Rangers team. Even in the first 30 minutes, I counted, we had a 4-1-2-1, 2 up front, a 4-2-2-2 at times.
I know you've got 11 players in there. I try to count that to make sure that you get 11 players in the back of it.
You get my gist. And a 4-1-2-3, the sort of inverted Christmas tree at times. But I mean, you can see the signs of what Beale is trying to do at times. And before we go into a bit of doom and gloom and a bit negative, like I found that quite encouraging when the confidence was up and Servette had 11 men on the pitch. I felt that we were playing really nicely, and some of those key combinations that Beale's been going on about in his post-match press conferences and the training videos and all that stuff, we saw elements of that tonight.
Yeah, we had some really neat passing moves in that first 30 minutes or so, where the ball was being moved around the Servette players one touch. The ball, we were cutting through the midfield and getting into attacking positions really quickly and with space, and it was really encouraging at times. It was just that you can tell the players are still getting used to each other in terms of the how accurate their passing is, where their movement is, etc., etc. Some of it will just be lazy passing, and they've got to tighten up on that front. But it is interesting watching from the stands as the players do switch positions and switch formations. I think that once we, I know people are getting fed up of hearing that the team needs to gel, but once the team has had more time together and got used to each other a bit more, we'll see that movement become more natural, and we'll see the benefits of that, as well as I go back to what Cyriel Dessers said in his post-match press conference. He was like, the manager gives him, Dinigo and Lammers, when they're up front, a lot of freedom to move about, and it's up to them to pick their positions and to drag defenders, and we'll see much more of that as they get used to playing with each other. We saw a bit of it tonight. I thought Danilo, while maybe, I was going to say almost trying too hard to make a difference, I thought he still made an impact. He's incredibly fast, which I think could be particularly beneficial. His first touch is really good. Just his decision making and his timing on when to make that pass is what he needs to improve upon in today's game. But I assume he knows that as well. He's only trained with the team 4 times so far. He played half an hour at the weekend against Kilmarnock, and he's had 60 minutes tonight. That sharpness is going to come, and hopefully we'll see him score plenty of goals for Rangers.
That's that as well. The next talking point here is 37 minutes. It's written down in bold letters here. Nico Raskin. For me, this is what he's all about. He got the ball in the middle of the pitch, one touch forward, and then the next one was a really, really good pass. I think it actually went out wide to Dessers. Dessers then found Raskin again on the left-hand side of the pitch, and he put in a really good ball for Lammers. And for me, this is the moment that's completely changed the game. I think if Lammers goes on to score this, we go on and win this 4-5, even with 6-0. But this was an absolute sucker crane, wasn't it?
It was. I mean, I felt like I could have scored it, and that's saying a lot. But I think that it gives a bit of ammunition to the people who didn't rate the signing of Sam Lammers. I think Sam Lammers has been really impressive since he came in. I think he's made a difference, and definitely in the pre-season performances. And he was good again tonight, I thought, as well. He does give the ball away probably a little bit too much for my liking, but you see the effort to win it back, and more often than not he does win it back quite high up the pitch. So hopefully he starts to settle into a style of play, and he gets used to Scottish football, and we do see the real benefits from him. But he needs to score there. He absolutely needs to score there. 3-0 at half time, and the tie is pretty much dead, isn't it? So even if you have the struggles, I would say the poor second half. I'm not convinced it was a poor second half, but the struggles in the second half, the frustrating second half that we had, you win the game 3-0, you're still entirely happy and confident that we're not going to concede 3 goals away in Switzerland. Now you're heading there 2-1 with a 2-1 win, a slender margin, and it's all to play for next week.
That's it, exactly. The last action point of the first half, I should say, is on 43 minutes. We were all a bit miffed when the referee just picked the ball up in the middle of the park. Disappointing again, there's no communication around the ground that there's a VAR check happening.
Yeah, they really should have something on the big screens at least to say VAR check in operation or in progress. Sorry, we've seen that in grounds around the world.
Yeah.
I've no idea why it isn't in operation now. We've also seen. I was a big fan. I don't know if you saw any of the Women's World Cup, but when the referee made a VAR decision, you could hear it in the stadium, and that seemed like a major bit of progress for me in terms of the fan experience. So the VAR stuff really needs to change, but we were absolutely miffed is the correct word.
Yeah.
Everyone on the gantry beside us was asking each other what could that be for. The only assumption you make is it must be for handball when it's because that was the only thing anywhere near a foul or a penalty or a contentious moment in the game at that point. So
yeah,
you assumed that's what it was for. As soon as the referee goes to the screen, you know it's going to be a penalty more often than not. He did point to the spot. Jack Butland had a bit of a head-to-head with the guy that was taking the penalty. Media. He tried to wind him up, and I'm all for that, absolutely. And even the I really enjoyed the pettiness of standing slightly further to his left. But Servette scored the penalty, and that was really the only serious chance that they had throughout the whole game. They had a couple of kind of opportunities to get a shot and goal, but there was nothing Jack Butland really had to do throughout that game. So I thought all in all we probably defended pretty well today, and the defence is an area of the team that's come under scrutiny recently, but I thought we defended pretty well. I really like the partnership of Goldson and Suter, and you have to hope that we put in a similar performance over in Servette and we score at least one goal, if not more, which can see us through.
Mm-hmm. What did you make of Dessers' comments in the post-match press conference about that he was certain it wasn't a penalty? And I think there was some Rangers players in that team tonight that are a bit flummoxed by the decision to award it. I mean, again, having seen it back a replay on the television, he was about a metre away from Borna Barisic's head, and I remember it's not the first time we've conceded a penalty against Swiss opposition from a deflection when it hits off one of them. I think it was in the Saint-Gilloise that Connor Goldson conceded a penalty in a very similar manner, but he seemed really peeved at that tonight in that press conference, didn't he?
Yeah, I mean, you're getting a full array of chaos thesaurus here. We've had marauding, we've had flummoxed, we've had peeved. I mean, you can probably miffed. Exactly. We're going through chaos full vocabulary. It did seem a bit frustrated by the fact that penalty was given. It did seem a bit like they were told in a referees meeting earlier in the week that type of penalty would not be given. Everyone that I've seen, I've not actually seen it back on TV, but everyone that I've seen on social media said that it's a stonewall penalty. No real arguments there. So it's one of those ones that it could be either, but I'm sure we'd be claiming it if it was in our favour as well. So it is what it is. There were more than enough opportunities for Rangers to win the game by many more goals, even with conceding that penalty. And I do think we are the better team overall. I don't think there's any arguing with that. But we saw when Servette played Genk that they kept coming back. They never gave up at any point. They had that guile about them to keep coming from behind and to keep their hand in the game, and we saw a bit of that tonight. I mean, they got out of Ibrox with a 2-1 defeat, and they're heading home to a full house. And if that was us, if we were playing a team away from home in the first leg, lost 2-1, you'd be fully confident coming back to Ibrox with 100%. A full house. So we've got to be aware of that. We've got to be on our game, and hopefully we'll score first next week.
Yeah, and before we come on to that dire second half, there's just a couple of things I want to ask you. Firstly, about Ryan Jack and how you felt he played in that first half. I thought he made a difference to that midfield, and as you touched on, that midfield three of himself, Raskin and Todd Cantwell look really good.
I think he did make a difference, and it'll be really interesting to see how much he plays this season. I expect it'll be Ryan Jack and Jose Cifuentes that kind of alternate in that role. We saw Cifuentes come on for his debut today after came on for Ryan Jack. I would imagine John Lundstrom is further down the pecking order than it has seemed so far. So I think Ryan Jack did make a difference. It's about managing his minutes. quite a lot. I think we'll hear that as we're giving him the breaks when we can get the breaks. And we saw a bit of Cifuentes tonight, and he looked promising. He wasn't scared to put himself about. He won a few tackles where it was probably 70-30 in the other player's favour, and he just needs to get used to the team. Michael Beale said he's trained twice with the team so far, so the fluidity of that, the style, getting used to the style of play, and hopefully the goals that we saw him score for LAFC in recent months will all come together in the next few weeks and months, and we'll see a real benefit from that.
Yeah, I agree that I'm very much looking forward to him. We'll definitely come on to him later on in the podcast. So yeah, the other thing I want to talk about in that first half was Danilo. As you
still in the first half?
Listen, we're moving on to that very, very shortly, but it was the amount of chances that he took, and his pace. How did you feel that he played overall in the game tonight?
Yeah, I think I turned to you after he took his first touch, or when he went to press the first time, and I said, wow. I just wasn't expecting him to be as quick as he was. His first touch is really good. Like I said, I think earlier in the podcast, it is just his decision making tonight was a bit off. He's getting used to his teammates. We're going to get he gets a bit of leeway at the moment for that, but he won't get that leeway for long. Maybe even after tonight, that leeway is gone, and he's got to step up to the mark. He had a couple of decent efforts at goal as well. There was one in the second half just before he came off where I thought he should have done better. The goalkeeper saved it pretty comfortably. The Servette goalkeeper walked past us on our way up here, and he was a huge guy, to be fair, so he did foul quite a lot of the goal, but those are the kind of chances you expect him to take going forward, and we need him to take going forward. But I was encouraged by his start, and hopefully we'll see more and more of him as the games go on.
Yeah, it's interesting. Scotto5 here says Danilo was perhaps trying too hard.
I think that's fair.
Yeah, I think that's a very fair comment, Scotto5. And by the way, it's nice to see positivity in the comments there. We're finally coming on to the second half. You'll be pleased to know, Craig, so we might get home at a reasonable time tonight. I was really, really expecting us to come out that second half and push on. I was expecting a similar start to what we had in the first half, but it just never really materialised. I almost felt at that point Servette had sort of figured us out in how we were going to play, and how we then did play in that, and it just never really got going at any point in the second half.
No, I think we were slower at the start of the second half. I think if we'd come out with the same energy that we did at the start of the first half, it would have been a different story, but we were much slower, we were much more laboured. There were a few early passes in the second half that went astray, and that became the story of the second half, really. It was just laboured is probably the best word to describe what this second half was. We had a couple of chances. I think the first 15 minutes was potentially when we created the most chances, which is strange considering we played the last half hour against 10 men. But the keeper made two great saves in that second half. Two saves diving down to his right hand side. One was definitely from Cyriel Dessers. I don't know who the other one was from. But actually, that was the first time in a while that with one of those, with the Cyriel Dessers one, that I saw us take a rehearsed corner kick.
Yeah,
I've not seen one of those in a long time, and everyone was moaning at James Tavernier because James Tavernier was trying to get Nico Raskin to stand in a particular place, but it was obviously because of this rehearsed corner kick that we're going to take. But it worked a treat. The ball in from James Tavernier was pinpoint perfect, and Cyriel Dessers got his shot on target. A good save from the keeper. So we had the opportunities. We should have had more opportunities had the passing been better in the second half, and that's the real frustration.
Yeah, agreed. I'm glad you brought up that corner kick routine, because with the height and physicality that we now have in our squad, we have to score more goals from set pieces. I think it was especially in the, I don't want to harp on about it too much, but going back to the 55 season, we scored a lot of goals from corners and set plays, and it's definitely something that I would like to see more of.
I actually think I saw a stat at the weekend when we were playing Kilmarnock that said we scored the most set piece goals in the Scottish Premiership last season, which is a surprise to me.
Yeah, stunned at that.
Apparently that was the case. So I think it was 21 goals in total across the season from set pieces. But if they're counting James Tavernier's penalties and James Tavernier's free kicks, it might as well be penalties. Then I guess that makes sense.
Yeah, I agreed. I'm stunned at that. I'm actually stunned you can remember anything from Saturday, to be honest with you. But the next talking point in that second half was David Dulin. that'll keep Ross happy in my pronunciation of that one.
Was that your attempt, was it?
It certainly was. I'm going to get a job as the French translator in the press conferences after that one.
By the way, I'm sure this is completely off topic, and you won't have seen the translation from the Servette manager, but I'm sure that translator just made up all of what he said there. He looked completely confused by every word.
Apart from Carte Rouge.
Yeah, Carte Rouge. Yeah, we all got Carte Rouge, and Aujourd'hui. That was the other one. But sorry, I digress.
That's it. Well, he was sent off for a second yellow. The Servette manager was asked that in the press conference that they found it harsh that he was sent off. I think he did reference the tough tackling, which is something that Rangers always seem to get levelled at them in every single European tie. I did not see that tonight. But for me, I actually thought, again, looking back in the replay, that could have been a straight red for that challenge. But right decision in the end.
Yeah, I've not seen it back, but in the stadium it looked like a second yellow card. I don't think the referee was too harsh with any of the yellow cards he gave out, and I don't think he was too lenient either in any of those ways. So I think it was really it was probably quite a fair performance from the referee on the card front. I think it was 2 yellow cards, and he didn't really seem to argue that much. His teammates argued, but he didn't really argue, and everyone in the stadium got a bit of a lift at that point because they 100%. Thought, here we go, perfect chance to go on, get the third goal, potentially get a fourth goal, create a bit of daylight between us and Servette, and go over to Switzerland with confidence. And you felt the frustration building as well throughout that second half. I thought that was really evident. Danilo was actually asked about what he thought of the reaction and how he dealt with the reaction following the Kilmarnock game. If he thought it was really sorry, did I say Danilo? They've become one of the same at some point in the season. The Dessers, I think I said that one. Dessers was asked, and he said he was used to it because he'd been at Feyenoord previously, and their fans react very similarly to bad results. But I think he did say as well, I think that you can feel the frustration building in the stadium. You can feel the noise building in the stadium as we were a bit wasteful with chances. So I think it's one of those things looking back that yes, we won 2-1. I don't actually feel like we won the game tonight, weirdly, but we did in fact win 2-1, and it's on to next week. And all we need is a draw, but we fully expect the team to go out and try and win next week.
Yeah, that's it exactly. I think the only last thing to talk about in terms of that, before we sort of sum up in that second half, was in 77 minutes we finally got to see Jose Cifuentes, a man that I feel that I've talked about on about 40 podcasts since the season end. I think we might have even liked him while the season was still ongoing at one point, but it was really good to, my favourite number, as you know, Craig, number 15 on the back of a shirt. It was really good to see him come on the pitch. A few slack passes. We will come on to the slack passes after this, but good to see Cifuentes finally in a blue jersey at a packed Ibrox tonight.
It was, and it was good to see the positions he picked up on the pitch. At that point, I've seen a few comments already about the fact that he had a few slack passes. I think slack passes are part of his game. It was a clear point in the sort of analysis of Cifuentes when people are looking at him. He tries things. He tries the risky passes going forward. He tries to play passes that are into tight spaces to get the team going. And to be honest, that's what we need quite a lot of the time. We need someone to try things, and we need to be more accepting when they don't come off. We're very safe as a team when it comes to passing. We're too safe as a team when it comes to passing. And Todd Cantwell tries things, and that's why we love him, and that's why we're seeing him make real differences. And I think Cifuentes will be the same in that vein, in terms of actually he's going to make a difference because he's different to the kind of players we have currently in the team, and he's going to. Sorry, I see you looking around. How bored are you by my
I was just wondering what was going on down
there. So Cifuentes it will try things. It will lose the ball, but I think the positives will hopefully outweigh the negatives on that front.
Yeah, agreed. I think there was one moment in particular where it was in the corner of the Broomloan in the main stand where he won that ball down there, and I think I can't remember who was on the right. It might have been Hadji at that point. See, if he'd just been a wee bit sharper, he would have been in. But I think that's the next point to talk about as well, in terms of our passing was honking at times. It was absolutely stinking. I don't think I can express my feelings any more than that, but we were really, really slack. It was something Beale touched on in the post-match press conference. I love it when managers go, it's not an excuse, but, and then proceeds to list about 50 excuses, talking about, the player, as you said, some of the players have only had 4 training sessions. I think Danilo's only had 4. Two.
Cifuentes was 2.
Some of these guys have just not played that much with each other, but it was bad for a team of professional footballers in that second half at times, wasn't it?
It was. I think one thing that I always love with professional footballers is if you're a professional striker and you're not able to hit the target 90% of the time, then I don't understand why you're a professional striker. Now that's really harsh, but you do feel like it did feel a bit like that tonight in terms of players should be able to make 5-10 yard passes to their teammates. They weren't trying difficult passes either. It was passes into feet where they were hoping to get the ball back and take a strike. And anytime we got near the 18-yard box, we seemed to just give the ball away, or the pass just seemed to be a few inches too heavy or a few inches wide of the player, too far wide of the player, and it was really frustrating. And just some of the decision making, I think I tweeted during the game from the TII Twitter account that it was just decision making all the time. There were several times in that game where we were on the counter attack and we were 3-on-1, 4-on-2, and all they needed to do was make the right pass. They could have made one pass before they had to make the right pass, and they still would have created a chance. And we just chose the wrong option time and time again. We either tried the most difficult pass there, or we held on to the ball too long. And a lot of that, I think, can be put down to the team getting to know each other, and I think a lot of that can be put down to the team learning where each other likes to run, what positions they like to get into, and all of that. But it was incredibly frustrating tonight.
Yeah, and I think I'm going to ask you a question from a viewer here that's come in one of the comments from Thomas H. I think it's a really good question. Do you think this experiment of playing people deeper than they've played traditionally will work? And I understand what it means about that in terms of we saw Cantwell a bit further forward last year. I even think, from my understanding of Cifuentes, he came on and he was playing a lot deeper than I was expecting him to be as well. What do you think about
that? It's one of those ones where I think it was under Steven Gerrard where we kept playing players out of position. I can't remember. Was it?
You name a Rangers manager and they love playing players out of position.
I don't understand why we've got a squad. We've got a huge squad at the moment. We've got a squad of 35, 36, 37 players at this moment in time. We have more than one player for each position. We have more than 2 players for each position, pretty much. So playing players out of position or trying to shoehorn them in because they're favourites of the manager or they're favourites of the fans. We need to stop doing that. Play players in their right position and let them thrive in the area of the pitch that they're good at. Why try and force square pegs into round holes? It doesn't make sense. I think there's some players we were spoiled with Joe Aribo, I think, because he could play anywhere on the park and he would look good, but other players aren't quite like that, and we've tried to shoehorn players into different areas just to get them on the park, and we do need to stop that. We should. I think with the number of signings Michael Beale spoke about, we've had 13 or 14 players leave so far this summer, and we've had 9 come in so far. That is a huge overhaul in the team, but it also should mean the squad is at least starting to shape as how he wants it to look. So we should have the relevant players in the relevant positions, and yes, there's still movement. Yes, there's still 3 weeks left in the transfer window. We've seen Fashion Sakala leave yesterday. I'm sure we'll see a couple more players leave over the coming weeks. But we need to get players who thrive in their own position and play them in their own position.
Agreed. Look, I think I'll come on to maybe man of the match chat now, and as we'll round it up, and that'll be a good place to finish it on. But who is your man of the match tonight, Craig?
I think it's Todd Cantwell. I think, although I did think Connor Golson and John Souttar marshalled their defence well. The guy up top was a huge guy, and he wasn't scared to throw his weight about either. And I think they both marshalled for the first 60 minutes anyway. When there was 11 against 11, they marshalled them really well. So I see Sean Maxwell saying Tavernier for him. I'm not sure. I'd say James Tavernier had his best game for Rangers tonight, but I don't think he was bad either. But Todd Cantwell stood out like a sore thumb from that team, and he was the most consistent player. He was demanding the ball. He was driving the team forward. He was also driving the standards as well on the pitch, which is what we like to see. So, yeah, you can't argue with I think it was the sponsors man of the match in the stadium was Todd Cantwell, and I don't think you can argue with that one.
Yeah, I think just to be different, I do agree that it was Todd Cantwell. I think people could have guessed that from the start of the podcast when I said every single thing went through him. But I'm going to give it to John Souttar. I thought he was excellent tonight, and that's something that we've not seen since the Bagheera days as a marauding centre half and running through the. Basically scored the second the goal from it, and interestingly enough, in that post-match press conference, Michael Beale was asked a question about Harry Souttar potentially coming on loan to his brother. Do you know an awful lot about Harry Souttar? Did you see him playing for Australia in the World Cup?
I think that's the extent of what I know about Harry Souttar. To be fair, was seeing him play for Australia and the fact he is actually a Rangers fan and he was in Seville. That's about as much I know about Harry Souttar. Leicester bought him for a
15 million quid, I think it was.
Chunky bit of change. So I think I'd be surprised if we signed him. Michael Beale said he thinks it was quite a lazy link from journalists.
Yeah, I've heard him say that before, though.
Yeah. It was a TalkSport journalist who has linked Harry Souttar with a loan move to Rangers. So it'll be interesting to see if that develops. I assume though he would be going somewhere that he would start. If he's going to go somewhere, he's going to go to play football. So, if we've got Connor Goldson and John Souttar, you'd question if he's going to start as many games as he would need to here to want to come here, albeit he's a Rangers fan, and we all know how often Rangers fans are like to come into Rangers when it's not true. So it's a wee bit of watch this space, but there's not anything in that. The other one Michael Beale ruled out was the Ridvan Yilmaz rumour that went about today that he's been told to find a new club. That's absolutely not the case at all. He's coming back from his knock that he got a couple of weeks ago, and he should be back, I think, fairly soon. There wasn't any specifics around timings or anything like that, but hey, there's a lot of Rangers fans out there who liked Borna Barisic's performance tonight. I was not one of them. I thought he did okay, but Ridvan Yilmaz, I think, offers a different dimension.
Yeah. I think that's a nice place to end the pod here, but I'm just going to flag up this comment from Ross. He says Beale's rolled it out, so we'll likely sign next week, so be prepared for Harry Souttar coming through the door.
Yeah, there's a few in the know people that we could say that relates to in terms of terms of saying something won't happen and it does, but if it happens, it happens. I think we do need another centre half. I'd be surprised if Ben Davies was still here at the end of the window, albeit I wouldn't be disappointed if he was still here. But his absence from the team seems a bit strange, albeit it is injury related, I think. So we'll watch this space. I think centre half is the next place we'll see someone signed. Centre half and a winger are probably the only two positions that we'll probably be looking at. So watch this space. There's not been that many links anymore after Cifuentes and Danilo signed. There's not been too many links, so it'll be really interesting to see how that develops over the next 3 weeks. But the squad shaped up nicely. They do just need to get used to each other because they do look like a team who have literally just met each other 2 weeks ago.
That's it, exactly. Again, I think that's a nice place to sum up the podcast. But listen, thanks to everybody for tuning in and watching. I know it's pretty late and there's a lot of you tuning in, so thank you as always. Just to let you know as well, we put out the podcast on audio platforms, so you can get this as Ibrox on Apple, Spotify, just wherever you get your regular podcast. But thanks everybody for tuning in and watching. Thank you, Craig.
Thank you for having me.
No bother, it's been an absolute pleasure as always. And the guys will be back on Saturday here, exact same position as we are right now, giving you an immediate post-match reaction from Livingston. That'll be Tommy and Ross. So take care everybody, and we will see you all then.